I wonder if people think I care. I wonder if people think you care. The story today teaches us that God believed, and indeed it was true, that Abraham cared. Let's go back to the verse that we read last week. Hebrews chapter 13, starting with verse 1. Keep on loving each other as brothers. We talked about that. Our family, maybe our church family, the people that we play sports with, are in scouts with, go to school with, our nearest people. We want to keep loving each other. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing, some people have entertained angels without even knowing it. And last week we read how Abraham had gone out to meet with these strangers, and it turned out he was meeting with God. So as God and the two angels, I guess, go to leave Abraham, well, it brings us to another passage, or to the next verse in Hebrews chapter 13. Verse 3. Remember those in prison as if you were their fellow prisoners, and those who are mistreated as if you yourselves are suffering. So we started by talking about loving the people in our lives who we're doing life with. Then we learned the importance of inviting the people that we meet, welcoming them, being hospitable to them. But now we see that we are to be aware of and concerned with those we may never see, those who are in prison, those who are oppressed, mistreated, and suffering, perhaps in faraway lands, perhaps in different parts of our own land, perhaps in a different neighborhood in our own town. So this is what happened with Abraham. As God began to leave, he and the angels talked. And the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do?" And God chose not to hide from Abraham because God knew that Abraham would care. And so God makes the move back to Abraham and speaks to Abraham about a land full of sin, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And there were two things that Abraham needed to be concerned about. Well, God was coming because he was concerned about the sin that was there. God wanted to put a stop to that. God wanted to end that pattern of sin and evil. But also God knew that Abraham would care about the people. And God cared about the people who were in that city despite their sin. And so what happens in this passage in Genesis chapter 18 is that God and Abraham have a very interesting discussion. Abraham says to God, "God, would you save the city for 50 righteous people? 40 people? 30? 20? 10? God agrees to each of those, but it turns out not even one righteous could be found. But God does agree, and God does rescue Abraham's family from this city. But what I want to ask you is, are you concerned with people who are oppressed? Are you worried about people who are trapped in sin? Do you talk to God about them? I wonder if we talk to God enough about people who are in bad situations. I wonder if God is trying to show us ways to listen to those people. I wonder if we have a heart to listen And after we've listened, I wonder if we will have a heart to act. Amos 5:24 says, "But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream." I pray that God will use us this week to bring about justice and righteousness as we live lives of mercy, because God has been merciful for us.